Yeah. I'm gonna go down there first, and then let them, I'll give them.
Have them all come up.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Microphones? No, but they tested the audio extensively.
Okay.
To try and mitigate the noise.
Okay. You can have beatbox on it?
Or they feel louder than-
I would just get one.
Install
Evidently, so we'll find out.
Oh, me too.
Okay, well.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Loganson, can we have someone open the windows in the back? Like stifling in here. Well, I was meaning bigs too. Thank you very much. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's 6:01 PM. We're here at the regular meeting of the Pacific Grove City Council. It's Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 at 6 PM here at 300 Forest Avenue, Pacific Grove, California. I'm calling this meeting to order. All council members are present with the exception of Councilmember Garfield, and I will look to Councilmember Rao to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. What brings us to item 1, which is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve? Approve. Got a motion by Emilio, second by Rao. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. And now we're on to item 2, presentations, and this is my proclamation declaring October 2025 as National Women's Small Business Month here in the city of Pacific Grove. And I'm going to come down and invite some of the members of the women's business community to come and meet with me at the front here in front of the podium. This mic is a little bit delayed. There it goes. Takes like about a minute to get going. Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. And I'm just going to read you this proclamation, and then I'm going to ask each of you to tell the audience where you're from, what business you run. Whereas in 1972, there were just over 400,000 women-owned businesses in the United States. And whereas women in the United States were not allowed to get a business loan without the signature of a male relative to co-sign for them until 1988. And whereas October is recognized as Women's Small Business Month because the law that allowed women to take out a loan in their own name, the Women's Business Ownership Act of 1988, was signed on October 25th, 1988. And whereas, according to the Small Business Administration, as of 2022, women-owned businesses make up 42% of all U.S. businesses. That's more than 13 million businesses. Whereas the celebration of National Women's Small Business Month honors the effort of women business owners and women entrepreneurs and recognizes the significant contributions of these owners and entrepreneurs to the community. And whereas women-owned businesses are key to overall economic success, I, Mayor of Pacific Grove Nick Smith, hereby recognize this month, October 2025, as National Women's Small Business Month and recognize the numerous successful women-owned businesses that help our economy thrive. Thank you very much. Thank you. Give them a round of applause. And thank you to those of you who've come out tonight. And why don't you just pass the mic around and tell us what business you run.
Artisana Gallery.
Your name.
Ruth Shapiro.
I'm Stephanie Loftus and I own The Quill. I am Danielle Cumberland. I am here on behalf of the owners of Bookworks, but I've been there for 9 years and I love it.
Christy Metzdo, President CEO of the Pacific Grove Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, Lori Marcus with Whimsy.
I'm Marcia Stearns from Bookmark Music, and today is our 31st birthday.
I'm Jackie Hay. I'm with the French Baker. It's a new startup.
Thank you so much. And I just like to get a photograph with all of you. So Will's coming down to the middle here. Fill in around me. I'm just. You guys can come up in front of me. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you very much. All right, so that'll bring us to item 3, council and staff announcements. And we'll turn to the city attorney for 3A, report on closed session.
Yes, we had a closed session earlier this afternoon, and there is no reportable action.
Thank you very much. And now we'll turn to the council for any announcements. Councilmember Rao.
Yeah, I just like to let the public that our district maps have been approved and are up on the Monterey County Elections website. So if you go to their website, you click on district maps, scroll down to Pacific Grove, you'll see a map of the city with all of them on there, and then you'll see each individual district map. So I wanted to make sure that was noted.
Great. Thank you for that announcement. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Councilmember McDonald.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out. Joyce added to our announcements that we get via text or maybe email. So if you are not already subscribed to our announcements, it's a great way to find out what's going on. But she posted that we were one of the top 40 small towns in the US on HGTV. So thanks for sharing that. And I just wanted to let more people know that you can get that kind of information and also local city events by signing up.
And that's awesome. And also add that there were only 3 towns in California, and we were one of them. So we know we're awesome. Now everybody else does too.
All right, let the world know. Thank you very much. Any other council members wishing to make an announcement? Staff, we'll turn to Mr. Mogensen. Do you have any announcements this evening?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to note, I'm sure everybody's aware that this weekend is Butterfly Day, so there'll be a lot of activities happening. After that, I will turn it over to a couple staff members, Joyce Hallaby and Dan Go as well, to a couple announcements.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, members of the council, members of the public. I just want to announce that the project which you all approved last month at Central Fountain and Grand is well underway. We're anticipating it going through October into November, and we hope it's completed by Thanksgiving time frame. I mean, hoping maybe a little bit earlier, so it should correspond right in line with the hotel opening. And then also we have our slurry seal project, which is going to commence here pretty quick. We've already started grinding the markings, and we'll be doing slurry seal on, I believe it's the 14th, 15th, and 16th around town. Thank you. And we'll send out notices and flyers through Ms. Hallaby's notifications. Thank you.
Great.
Good evening, honorable mayor and members of the council. Thank you, Councilmember McDonald and Councilmember Rao. The first announcement I had tonight was that we made HGTV's top 40 most charming downtowns in the United States. We were actually number 10 and the first placed California city. So it's very exciting. We have the full article linked in the city's homepage, cityofpg.org. We also wanted to announce that our preschool is hosting an open house on October 8th. There's more details on our website, again, cityofpg.org/news, and you can subscribe to updates, but we do have vacancies and spaces for our preschool program. So we're encouraging anybody, if they're interested, to come to the open house and learn more. And then last but not least, our application window for storefront retail commercial cannabis business license opened earlier this month on the 15th. Application window closes on October 15th. So just wanted to announce that that process is underway.
Very good. Anything else? Thank you very much, staff, for the reports. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing everyone in the community at Butterfly Days. And now we're going to move on to general public comment. This is item 4. General public comment deals with matters subject to the jurisdiction of the city, but not on the regular agenda tonight. So seeing members of the audience first, is anyone wishing to make general public comment in the audience? Okay, great. We have a couple of people. And if you wish to make general public comment online, please raise your hand.
You need to be at the microphone, sir, if you want anybody to hear you.
They can't hear you online unless you're there.
He's stealing my thunder here.
No,
Yeah.
No. Anyway, Jeannie Anton, I'm here for the Heritage Society, just to let you know that this is a very big weekend for us. And of course, starting with the Butterfly Parade. And then the Heritage Society is sponsoring a number of things, one of them being the birdhouses, and Mark will tell you more about that in a moment. We're going to have 4 historic walks into different parts of town on Saturday and Sunday, one at 11, one at 1, and they're free. The Chautauqua Hall will be open for all the birdhouses, as he will explain to you. There's also a croquet tournament going on. We have 10 teams, and we actually have 2 people sitting up there with you. Whoops, Joyce moved to the back, but our city manager and our assistant city manager are both participating in the croquet tournament. So we wish them well. And then on Saturday night at 5 o'clock, we have the one event that does require tickets, and that is out at the Lighthouse. We'll have a live band. We'll have dinner catered by Michael's Taqueria and drinks. And last year we had a fantastic sunset. So we'll see what happens this year, but come in layers. But I do invite all of you, and I invite the public to come and join us. We have a few tickets left. And then Mark will tell you about the birdhouses.
Thank you.
Birdhouse.
To the mic, sir.
These birdhouses have been something, I'm Mark Travail. I'm the Vice President of Heritage Society. And the birdhouses are something that we have auctioned off for 25, 30 years, I guess. And we ask people to make them and donate their birdhouses to us. And then we auction them off, silent auction them off, and we use the money to promote our programs. So that'll be happening at Chautauqua Hall on both Saturday and Sunday between 10 and 4. And at 4 o'clock on Sunday, we will close the auction and we will get the money and let people leave with their birdhouses. Also at Chautauqua Hall on Sunday, we're going to have a local author, Stuart McDowell, who has now his 3rd book. He'll be speaking on our lighthouse and the lighthouse keepers. And he's a very entertaining speaker, and he's quite a joy to hear. And that's what happened at 2 o'clock, and that's free. And also, we will be having historic home tours that will start at Chautauqua Hall. We have various volunteers from our organization that'll take people around and show them all the cool things that are hidden in our town. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the work. Thank you, Ms. Anton. I'll go to the online.
We have one hand raised, Mayor Inga Lawrenson Dreimer.
Thank you. I want to thank the city for putting out that lovely little HGTV. I received it. I've been signed up for those, and okay, I'll deal with these news blasts. And I did read the whole article. And the one thing that went through every single city that was listed all the way up was how they preserved and enhanced their historic districts and assets. And each one, history is big business. And you know what? We need to be really careful to protect ours. And I think that article posted it out, and I encourage everyone to read the entire article and all the different cities. Thank you very much.
No further hands, Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead and close general public comment, come back to the consent agenda. Consent agenda deals with routine and non-controversial matters. And at this time, are there any members of the council wishing to pull a consent item? Seeing none, was there any member of the public here or online wishing to pull a consent item?
No hands online, Mayor.
Okay. We'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to approve consent.
Move consent.
Second.
All right, motion by Paduri, second by Emilio. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll move right along to item 11A. This is ordinance adopting the new building codes. And I'll invite Mr. Kuhl to come forward and present for us tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. John Biggs with your Community Development Department. Our Chief Building Official, John Keel, has been working very hard at updating our building codes, and he would like to present some information on that work he's done so far for your consideration this evening before you take adoption of the new building code regulations. So, Mr. Keel, feel free.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. The item before you tonight is something that comes up every 3 years. California goes through a drill and updates the building standards codes every 3 years. One thing that we take a lot of pride in with our region is both fire and building. We're active participants in our local agencies for the building official group. We've got a tri-county building official group as well as the fire prevention officers. We try very hard to have fewer and fewer amendments. And if the code needs to be amended, we propose that to the state. And it usually takes 3 to 5 years to get a code implemented and initiated. So what's before you tonight is fewer amendments, and most of them have been adopted before. These aren't new items. Just a couple new things to point out. There, California, through the legislation, adopted a Senate bill, which was Senate Bill 130, which in a sense will freeze the residential provisions of the California codes for the next 6 years. It was the state's or the legislators' attempt to try to minimize changes to the residential code to keep the cost for residential construction down as much as possible. So what we have to do if we amend the residential code is have real specific findings. So included in the ordinance, you'll see some specific findings that would indicate this is existing amendment that's already been adopted by the city and included for state consideration. The other nuance this year is there's a new code, which is the Urban Wildland Interface Code, which the information contained within the code is not a new code. It's information that was included in the building code before as Chapter 7A. So they decided to take that out, and just want to make sure that it is understood that the Wild Urban Interface Code only applies to new construction. So you've heard home hardening and elements. The council adopted a new fire map system or fire maps. If you do a new building, which is a brand new house or commercial building, and you happen to be in one of those very high hazard zones, then the provisions in that wildland interface code do apply. So what we're asking tonight is that you request that the city attorney read the title of the ordinance, followed by a second, and waive further reading of the ordinance. Introduce and hold first reading of the ordinance that adopts the 2025 edition of the California Building Standards Code with local amendments, and direct that publication of the ordinance be satisfied by publication of a summary approved by the city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Cool. Is that it for the city's
That-
presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Take it out to the public. Anyone in chambers or online wishing to comment on item 11A?
No callers online, Mayor.
All right, seeing no takers on that, we'll go ahead and close public comment on this item, bring it back to the council for action. This is a ministerial item and this is done every 3 years, so I'll entertain a motion if anyone would like to make one.
Well, you want to ask me to read the title first or?
Yeah, we have a question up here, but sure. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Creel, for making these changes in accordance with what's going on at a state level. My question is, when I look at the 2025 fact sheet of what is changing, it says, just as an instance, it says heat pumps are being mandated for new residential units. If that kind of code does not exist within PG's code, technically the state code will prevail, right?
Yes, that's correct. The state code is a minimum code. The amendments that you see are above and beyond the state minimum.
Okay. And I didn't see it, but perhaps it exists. Is the state website a good resource for us to go to check out what is the difference between the 2022 code and the 2025 code?
The state doesn't have on their website a side by side.
Okay.
There are publications. Generally, the state at some point in time will publish substantial differences. I have gone to some trainings. There's not substantial changes. And some of why this legislation came about is the California Energy Code seems to be upping the ante every year and really adding a lot of additional energy elements that do make a difference. However, at some point in time, there really isn't a big payback for it. So that's the largest changes are in the energy section.
Okay, thank you. And that's what I interpreted from the fact sheet too. So thank you for confirming it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember McDonald?
Thank you. Yeah, I actually just had one comment in the section of the ordinance where it says that now therefore as a council, we ordain as follows. There's a section under, I think it's topographical on page 83 that says the natural rocky shorelines of Pacific Grove create a situation by which access to the building can only be made from the street. The front of the buildings is essentially the only accessible point, and that there's nearly 9 blocks of continuous construction. And I was curious about that only because it says we ordain it, and it sounds more like Monterey maybe, I'm not sure, because we only have Hopkins and then 2 houses that don't back up. So I was curious if that needed to be corrected since it's saying that we as a council ordain it. I just want to check and see if it's a fact that needs to be corrected.
We could correct that, and I could work with the city attorney. I believe it's a non-substance
Okay.
change. Would that be accurate that that we could make an amendment to that finding to more apply to Pacific Grove?
And partly the reason I asked is because I know we share a fire department. So I was curious, like maybe it applied to Cannery Row, for example, where there's essentially probably 9 blocks of buildings that don't have access from the back. But since it specifically says Pacific Grove, I just wasn't sure if it's something that needed to be corrected or if it's non-substantive. Maybe it's not necessary, but just wanted to point it out.
Thank you.
Councilmember, could you please?
Identify, I'm sorry, Mr. Cole. I have a question. Do you identify it as correct, what she's referred to?
It does apply whether it's 9 blocks or not. It's a guess. So we do have opt-ins. We do have a couple properties that are on the ocean. So if you all told, it may not equal 9 blocks, it might be close.
Go ahead, Councilmember Brow.
So, Mr. Keel, the way that I read this is that the buildings can only be made from the street. So if you look at a portion of Ocean View, there are houses directly behind them. There is no alleyway. So I think when you expand this to include all of the homes that are only accessible from the front, that could include portions of Ocean View as well. You know, down past Perkins Park and along that area, you know, where they stack up and back up to Surf, and there is no alleyway between Surf and Ocean View. So I read this as including that because of the way that those blocks are configured. So I don't know if that helps in the 9 blocks.
I think the intent is just a finding that there are properties that can be challenging to access. You get it from one side. Therefore, the fire code is amended for some of the sprinkler provisions that we need the additional fire protection when it's a challenge to get to all 4 sides of a building.
Okay, so I'm just going to recommend that we make the motion and we have staff work together on the second read to clean it up if it needs to be cleaned up. I mean, I can't identify right now.
Could I ask a question? Councilmember McDonald, what, you said it was on page 83 that you were referring, which paragraph, how does that paragraph begin? So the one says,
Natural rocky shorelines create a situation where you can't access the back of the house. And that caught my attention because we only have the 2 houses on where Sunset Lighthouse and Sunset and Ocean View meet, where Lighthouse comes down. And then if you wanted to include Hopkins Marine Station. So, but most blocks would have, you know, a backyard, but they could still come in to the back from the neighbor's backyard. So I just noticed that we don't have more than those 3 properties that are actually on the rocky shoreline. And that's why I thought maybe it might have been more relevant to Monterey. So, and it may be a moot point, but I just wanted to bring it up in case it was important to fix.
well, I'd ask, before we started doing this drafting, Mr. Keel, did you believe there's a need to change the language there in that paragraph? Is it incomplete or inaccurate in some way?
I would say it's not completely inaccurate. So
Not
I
much of an
think,
endorsement.
in my opinion, it would be accurate.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'll go and make a motion.
Before we go there, I just speak, so we're not changing anything on this
No.
page? Okay.
I'll make a motion to request that the city attorney read the title of the ordinance.
I'll be glad to do that. This is an ordinance of the city of Pacific Grove amending chapters 18.04 and 18.32 of the Pacific Grove Municipal Code, adopting the 2025 California Building Standards Code, Title 24, California Code of Regulations, Parts 1 through 12, and the 2024 International Property Maintenance Code, and adopting local amendments to Parts 2.5 and 9 of the 2025 California Building Standards Code. And then what could be done now is a motion to approve the remaining recommendations in the agenda.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the rest of the recommendations.
Second. All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Move on to item 11B, the Hobson Fog holdout. And that's Mr. Go.
Your Honor, members of the City Council, I have a brief presentation. Let me share the screen. Bear with me real quick. So as the city clerk, Ms. Condell, brings that up, I'd just like to state that tonight we're presenting to you, and I'm asking you as part of the recommendation to authorize an encroachment permit to be issued to Hops and Fogs Brewing Company located at 511 Lighthouse Avenue to construct a bulb out for sidewalk dining. Okay, so I just gave you the recommendation real quick. Sorry, thanks. Okay, so I know this is hard to see, but this is also in your packet. So we were approached, Public Works and the Building Department were approached by Hops and Fog as they wanted to move forward with extended sidewalk dining. They wanted to do it under their original footprint. And we just weren't able to achieve that with the tree there and so on and so forth. So we solicited the services of our city engineer, Neil Engineers, who went out there and presented some options of what we could do. And then we met with the owners of Hops and Fog, and we came up with this bulb out design that goes around the tree that can create the pedestrian walkway, and they can still have the outdoor dining, as you see here today. Next slide, please. So the project is outside the scope of a normal encroachment permit that we would provide, right? Because we're building this bulb out. We're gonna lose one parking spot, hence why I'm here tonight. It's different than just having somebody replace their sidewalk. But what this does do, it meets all the parameters that are set forth in the sidewalk dining manual, which you all approved a couple months ago. Hops and Fog, if approved tonight, will then submit to the building department an encroachment permit that has a plan. We will then review it and ensure that all aspects of that encroachment permit and the plan are consistent with the sidewalk dining manual. What you see in the packet today are renderings. It doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly how it's going to look. We'll take their plan, we'll take their materials and what they want to use and make sure that's consistent with that manual. And then we would issue the encroachment permit if you opt to deviate from the normal encroachment permit and grant them the opportunity to build this bulb out tonight. Moving forward, staff will develop policies and procedures that we will use to streamline requests like this in the future. But this one came up right after the sidewalk dining manual was presented and approved. So we felt it was fair for the applicant, the owners of the business, to bring this forward tonight. Ms. Hallaby and myself are currently working on policies and procedures, which we'll bring forward at a very near future city council meeting. All costs for this project will be the responsibility of the encroachment permit applicant, the business owners. I believe that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And take it out to the public. Any members of the public wishing to comment on this item here in the house or online? If you're online, please raise your hand. We have one member in the house coming forward.
Hi. My name is Jimena Weiseluth. I'm one of the owners of Hops and Fog. Thank you for putting this on your agenda. Obviously, I'm hoping that you'll support this project. And to that end, I wanted to address the main concerns brought up in a letter in the packet that's against it. As Mr. Go explained, many months ago, we began a process of figuring out how we might do a front area build out. And we started by reading in its entirety, the report titled PG Sidewalk Dining Guidelines Final Report, submitted in 2024 by BFS Landscape Architects. In reference to the bulb out done at Fountain Avenue, it reads, quote, "The Lighthouse Avenue Sidewalk Expansion Project will be the first implemented bulb out project. There may be other locations in the city that are suitable, which will be determined at a future date. Applicants are requested to contact the city with suggestions or requests about other such locations for bulb outs where sidewalk dining would be appropriate," which is what we did. We did not do it in secrecy or without transparency. We did it out in the open at several meetings with city staff on both sunny and foggy days. The staff, so you know, was awesome, really constructive and neutral in helping guide us through our questions and concerns. We submitted the plans, which was then checked off by the engineers. We now meet in our plans all conditions and specifications following design guidelines for public safety, function, and aesthetics. There are not policies and procedures in place, and this is a deviation from normal encroachment because we're the first. And that doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. It's just that somebody has to be first. And it turns out it's us for now. Importantly, we are eager enough to make this happen that we're willing to fund it ourselves. It's possible that in the future, the city may partially help fund more build-outs as it did on Fountain Avenue, but that would likely be a long way out. And we have momentum now and feel we have really positive, strong community support. As that report notes, seeing sidewalk dining on the street activates the street. It creates feelings of excitement and helps draw both locals and visitors to the area. The sidewalk bulb out in front of Victorian Corner, Rudolfo's, and Wild Fish is great. People like seeing people dining out. And one in front of Hops and Frog will add to the continuity on the street and add a vibrancy we feel far outweighs the loss of one parking space. We feel it is a benefit for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have another member in chambers coming forward.
Good evening, Susan Goldbeck, Pacific Grove. I just had two questions. Number one, this encroachment, I assume that it means an encroachment onto city property. And so that's a question I have. And the other question I had is, if it is an encroachment on city property, have other businesses been given this same ability to use city property? And if they haven't, will that be the policy then to allow them to do that if they come forward? Thank you.
Anybody else online?
Yes, Mayor, I believe we have two hands raised online. Inga Lorenzen-Dormer.
Thank you. This is interesting because this is kind of being presented in a different way. And oh, this is just in we're the first and it's all okay and we're going forward. Well, that is. However, what benefits one business does not necessarily benefit all the businesses or neighbors and residents in a neighborhood, especially mixed use. My problem is that we do not yet have a city policy for this kind of encroachment variance, which, as Dango first admits, is significant because it does encroach on city property. And Susan Goldbeck brought up many interesting thoughts about that. Now I understand that this should be, oh yes, we're just pushing it through. We're the first, we're doing it. But what happens afterwards? We don't have a standardized downtown design, which can incorporate different individual necessities, but we don't have the guidelines. We don't have, we just don't have enough information to just blithely move ahead. A little more homework. This is more like piecemeal planning that, oh, we could, and we didn't even see what the city engineers came up with in the beginning before Hops and Fog drew their own. I'm not against Hops and Fog. I am into procedure and how this moves forward in a logical planning. And yes, Mayor, you can laugh. It's your favorite watering hole. I know. We have lots of pictures of you disheveled in front of it. That's fine. You know, have a good time. But what I'm saying is, don't just sit there and laugh at me on this, because we are talking about orderly progression of getting procedure in place before. And I think it's a good question because you are encroaching on public property. I'm just asking you to stop, look, and listen and proceed carefully. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, Lisa Chiani.
Thank you. You know, I have not looked into this in detail. I just have a bias because Hops and Fog, the owners have been really responsible all the way through development of their project and going forward. And an adaptive reuse of a historic building. I mean, that's big to me. But definitely, I do want you to follow a process that is fair to everyone. But I certainly have been impressed, even though I don't go out to dinner much at all, and I haven't been there. I'm just thrilled that they did an adaptive reuse of a historic building. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further hands, Mayor.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. Close public comment on this item. I got a couple questions. Follow up on some of the questions. This is an encroachment on city property. Obviously, that's what the definition of an encroachment permit is, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the second question is, are others doing it? It's on a case-by-case basis. We get to decide as a city whether we want to grant such encroachments. Is that correct?
That's correct. We issue encroachments permits probably on the daily basis for various projects, but this is kind of a deviation from that because we will be encroaching slightly into the roadway to create this bulb out, but it meets all the parameters of a encroachment permit.
And it's within the bounds of our authority to do so.
It is within our public right of way.
Got it. Okay, so I'm fully supportive of this, the recommendation, and I'll look to my colleagues for other comments. Mayor Pro Tem Amelia.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. I'm going to back up a little bit. What that place looked like prior to Hops and Fog was I think it was a laundromat or something, and it looked abandoned. And what Hops and Fogs did was just turn that place upside down and make it look great. I'm also in favor of this. We spent quite a lot of money on up the street on the 3 parklets, which was around $450,000. And I think this encroachment, I fully support it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and this was actually something that was intended all along when the original parklet plan was developed for the conversion into the bulb outs with the dining. The plan was always, having been on the Parklet Committee subcommittee, the plan was always to have that option available to future businesses. We weren't sure that the city would be able to help co-fund it. We had said that we would make that available to businesses who wanted to pay for it themselves. If they wanted to do it sooner, then the city could participate. That's why it was included in the handbook, so that when that came out, that would provide an avenue, and it did actually provide a process for people, which they followed, which was to submit the application and have the city work with them. I really appreciate that they've worked to incorporate the tree rather than asking for it to be removed. There had been a question in the letter about whether it would affect visual cues for cars and bicycles. It would be replacing a parking spot, so it wouldn't be going into the street any further, so it wouldn't have any impact on line of sight or safety in that regard. In fact, it might provide, more, because it'd probably be lower than a tall car would be parked on the same corner. And it looks like it was stated in the agenda item that there wouldn't be any issues with the drainage from the water and everything. So to me, it feels like this is the first project who's offering to come forward, has worked with the city to do so, has taken into account what this community values, like keeping the tree. We would lose 1 parking space, but it's also in an area where there are parking spaces in the center of the street directly across. And so it does seem like it provides a greater public benefit, continues the program that we'd already initiated and expected to expand upon, and therefore I would support it as well.
Great. Councilman Rao.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to be clear on a couple of, I know the artist rendering and the plan from the engineer looks a little skewed. So just to be clear, they're not asking to encroach on their next door neighbor's property, right? The railing would be at the property line? Is that correct?
Is correct.
Okay. And, you know, I think there was a question about the sewer, and we redid the sewer under the bulb out on Fountain and Lighthouse. This is not that same situation, right? This sewer has already been replaced in recent history, right?
I would have to confirm that, but we have had no known issues with this sewer, and it's just skirting with basically the gutter pan. So I see no issues with it whatsoever. And I know the storm drain infrastructure, we just did some work there on the storm drain infrastructure. I have no concerns with the city utilities in this location.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. It's only taking out the depth of the parking space, right? It's not encroaching into the street.
That is correct.
And the tenant improvement that they're making is on their dime.
That is correct.
I heard an objection about the railings and the aesthetic and whether or not it's going to match. I think in this particular case, you're dealing with 3 Victorian houses on one corner and a building that, although it's historic, doesn't maintain what I would consider, you know, the full Victorian charm. I think the railing fits in, you know, with, I think the railing fits in with the aesthetic of the building. And I don't necessarily think, in my opinion, that all the railings in town need to match. I think one of the advantages is to have an individualized railing. For all of those reasons and all of the yes answers you've given me, I am a firm yes on this.
Thank you. Anyone? Councilmember Drury? Councilmember Walking Stick?
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay,
Okay.
good questions raised. First of all, with the bulb out, is there a standard for that? I think that's been pretty well addressed. This can be kind of seen as an extension of our sidewalk dining program that we've been promoting. Although we have code that covers this on a case-by-case basis, I can see this as a larger program, a larger effort across town, and very grateful for this. The engineering, it's been brought up by a couple of people actually now. I wanted to confirm for the record that it was the city that did the engineering on the plan. It wasn't Hobson Fogg that did that on their own, right?
That is correct.
Okay, excellent. I just wanted that clear for the public. There seemed to be confusion on that point. In this case, the applicant is willing to bear the burden financially, but the city is still handling the engineering, so you know that's all well coordinated on the city side and done right. So I think this is a fantastic project and a great step forward for our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
Very.
all right, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to comment on the fact that you said you're first, and I know somebody famous who said if you're not first, you're last. So thank you for first of all bringing this forward and like taking it to the next step, because I think this will be a precursor of what are the things to come in the future, and we always need somebody to step up and do it. So thank you. I would have a couple of questions for the staff and some I would say recommendations. One is I know in the agenda item and in a lot of places we're saying outdoor guidelines manual. Where's the word manual? I mean, I always see outdoor guidelines. There is no manual, right? There's outdoor or sidewalk dining guidelines, right? Where is the manual, if there's a manual?
If someone
I
from
think
staff
we'll
would
refer to the same.
Sorry, a lot of crosstalk, but just someone from staff answer.
I was just going to say off the top of my head, I'd have to double check exactly what's written on the document, but we're probably talking about the same document in different terms.
Yeah, and so it's just, as far as I know, we approved sidewalk dining guidelines. So, and over here, we're quoting sidewalk dining manual and with capitalized. So it seems like there's a manual and we don't have it. So it's guidelines. So I would say in the future, just make it consistent to reflect it to be sidewalk dining guidelines. The other thing is, and this is true of what was mentioned here, is In November 20th of 2024, the regular meeting, we did, the agenda item reads, these guidelines are specific to the ballpark configuration that is being constructed at the lighthouse. But staff will be approving current outdoor dining requests, and this will act as a template for larger outdoor dining guidelines. So we're in effect following through with what we did from November 20th. I don't want to go back to November 20th document or agenda item every time this comes to the council. So I would suggest that in the outdoor dining guidelines itself, you add sentences to say that this is a template for the future. So whatever we're doing here becomes essentially a framework for how we're going to do things in the future. So that's just a suggestion. And then my questions were really around a couple of items. One is, from what I understand, once we issue a permit, you have a certain, as part of the permit process, you have to have insurance. So this being a special case, like an extension, do we have to have additional insurance, or will the current insurance that is on record, will that cover it?
Councilmember Paduri, the applicant would need to submit an encroachment permit for this. We're only granting them the opportunity to build this bulb out. Whatever parameters are set forth within that encroachment permit would have to be provided at time of the application or at time of the issuance of the permit.
Okay, so let me
if
ask.
additional insurance is required, yes, they would have to get that at that time.
Okay, so let me put it a different way. Does the encroachment permit require insurance?
I do not have an answer to that.
If I could help, Councilmember, I think there's two levels to what's really happening here. The encroachment permit is what grants the sidewalk, the ability to build the sidewalk larger. We also have a sidewalk dining permit, which is an administrative permit that we're giving to many restaurants downtown, working with them. Part of the requirements of the sidewalk dining permit is insurance. So they're going to have to give us insurance on both sides of that. If your question is what they haven't filed with us is already good enough, I don't know that without checking the records, but there's a chance that we're going to ask for an updated policy anyway with the sidewalk dining permit.
Okay, and that's what I want to, because I think the insurance is only part of the sidewalk dining permit. So I want that to be extended to this too, to make sure we're covered on all sides. And then the final question was really, every time we get onto parking, safety is obviously like paramount. Has Mr. Deal or somebody from traffic safety examined this design, or are they going to do it in the future?
Our traffic engineer, Mr. Deal, is no longer our traffic engineer. We have a new traffic engineer, just to let you know. But they have not reviewed this, but our civil engineering team has reviewed this, and this is very consistent to all the bulb outs that we build, such as the one that we're about to construct down on Grand and Central. I am very confident that this increases pedestrian safety by shortening crossing times, by constructing a bulb out and making vehicles aware that there are pedestrians in this area with these bulb outs. It is a key to pedestrian safety.
Okay, oh, thank you. I'm supportive, as you can see. Thanks for all the work on this.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move recommendation 1. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. And then you guys heard Councilmember Paduri's suggestions for the guidelines, so I don't think we're going to need anything on that. So unless there's any discussion, then we'll go ahead and take a vote on item recommendation 1. Voice vote, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Thank you very much for the clarifications, and thank you for bringing this project Hobson Fog. All right, so now we're gonna move on. I think where there's no 12 items, we're on to new business, 13B, Recreation Board's Needs Assessment, and we'll look to our Mayor Pro Tem, Joe Emilio, for that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The Recreation Commission, on a 3-0 vote, wanted to spend up to 20 hours of staff time to support a development of a community needs assessment focused on the recreation needs of the community. They based their questions on 2018 survey. Now, myself being the rep of the Recreation Commission, I was there and I really forgot the name of the commissioner that was the subcommittee, but she said that the 2018 needs assessment had some great questions to it. And I'm saying, I know there was a question about hiring a consultant. I back off of that because we do not need to be hiring a consultant to do a needs assessment, in my opinion. I think what has to happen is the needs assessment needs to be brought to the Recreation Commission, Recreation Board, someone from the recreation staff to help the Recreation Commission develop this needs assessment. And the needs assessment from 2018 sounded like it had great questions to it already. All it needs to be tweaked and then post back on the website. That's my recommendation.
Understood. So you're recommending that we dust off the 2018, direct the Recreation Board to examine 2018 with the help of staff and possibly augment that survey and redo the survey that way?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. No consultant. Okay. We'll take it out to the public for any public comment.
I have no hands raised online, Mayor.
All right. And seeing no one in chambers, go ahead and close the public comment, bring it back up to the council for discussion of that Mayor Pro Tem's idea and recommendation tonight. Yeah, Councilmember Drury.
Thank you. I just had a question. So are we saying that for the agenda item, we're requesting for 20 hours of staff time to develop the recreation needs assessment?
Up to
20 hours?
Up to 20 hours.
Okay.
Up to 20 hours have the recreation staff work with the Recreation Commission to dust off the needs assessment from 2018 because the questions were from one of the subcommittees said that the questions were fantastic. They just, a couple of questions have to be updated.
Okay, great. So my question to staff is 20 hours enough? So this recommendation says staff time of up to 20 hours is required for a recreation assessment update. My question is 20 hours enough?
I think it really depends on the scope of what we're talking about. We're not clear on that at this point. I think the original study that we did or survey that was done, from my understanding, I wasn't here, it took a staff member probably 100 to 200 hours, a lot of time. And you can see the documents on the website, it's pretty extensive. So I think anytime you mess with a statistical document, you're going to change a lot of it. So it's probably going to be a significant thing if we put more questions and put it back out. So in terms of what the actual time will be, we probably have a better estimate if we had more specifics on what it is they want to change, like what questions they want to, how many more, or.
Yeah.
And I was just going to ask, as a response to that, as it stands with this agenda item, if we were to bless it saying up to 20 hours, what are the next steps in your mind? What is going to happen next?
We're not sure what we could really accomplish in 20 hours towards this. If we just wanted to take the same study, same questions, reopen the survey and collect the data and see if it changed the numbers within all the documents that you see on the website. That might be, maybe only 20 hours short, it might be 40 hours. It's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. Like I said, they spent a significant amount of time and there's a lot in those documents you can tell. I think if they really want to have a full survey again, which even if you use the same questions and you just add 2 more, I think you really are starting over. I mean, all of your analysis is going to be different, everything. So I think you have to look at this as a larger effort.
So I'm there with that. This was done in 2018. We're almost nearing the 10-year mark. So do we need to kind of just redo the whole thing? Okay, that's just a question. I'll hear what other council members have to say.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's hear some other people, but I appreciate that question. It might be the kind of thing where we have to kind of rip the Band-Aid off. Councilman Rowe.
Thank you. So I did peruse through the 81 pages of the results from the last survey. And I guess my question is, what was the issue that we felt like we were missing? It seemed to be a pretty thorough examination of, I think Ms. Hallaby did an outstanding job at crafting the questions, the number of responses that we were able to gather. And I guess, what are we looking to get out of this at the end of this redo? I think we all know inside our hearts and our heads what needs to be done. We need a refresh of, and a significant one, of Caledonia. There are bathrooms at other facilities that need to be done. We know a lot of the infrastructure problems that we're facing. So I guess I'm just not sure that our population and our kids' needs have changed since 2018. So what I don't want to do is get you 20 hours into it and then have you say, well, it's not enough. So then we either decide we need to scrap it or we need to add 80 more hours. So I think if we understood what we were trying to get out of this, I think that would be great. But I don't know if we're trying to throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. So from my perspective, I think we put, some of these parks and other facilities on the capital improvement, and let's try and see what we can get done. But,
Oh, thank you. I think those are great comments. I will say, the first time we did this survey, it led to major increases in our rec program, which we have accomplished. So in my view, I do think we did accomplish the goals set forth in the 2018. The resultant goals that kind of emanated from this survey have been accomplished and were accomplished in the last council term. So I don't know that I want to get into that 2080 thing either, because it could definitely happen. Potentially, I could see just dusting off the old survey and reusing it. Maybe that would be one thing, but we still have to analyze the data. But as far as working with the rec board and all that, I don't think I can support that. I think I've been persuaded by my colleagues that we've already kind of gone down that road, and we need to focus on infrastructure maintenance. We need to focus on Caledonia. We need to focus on where are our real issues, and we don't have. If I'm going to invoke Councilmember Garfield, if everything's a priority, then nothing is. So I think we got to do some of that. Unfortunately, I think that we've made a lot of strides with recreation and youth recreation. I mean, we had projects last year that came up, infrastructure that we were able to do with our ARPA or our excess funds. We were able to do 3 projects. We've really tried hard. We've put our hearts into the youth recreation thing. So I think I'm good with where it is. Go ahead, Councilmember Walking Stick.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I think at this point I'm kind of parroting the what's already come up, but with us being 7 years out from the 2018 survey, I don't think that our needs or our town have materially changed enough to require a new survey just yet. But what really dissuades me from pursuing is that simply right now in this moment, it doesn't align with our city council or city goals. And because we're already pretty strapped for staff time, for money, for basically everything, our resources are stretched thin. I don't want to say no to other ideas that aren't specifically goals, but it has to be a really persuasive argument to take time that's already been allocated to our goals that we've put out there to get us to go do something else, right, with that time and that money, right? So I don't think this is a high enough. I don't think this is a higher priority than the other goals we have set forward. So I don't want to take staff time away from those goals to work on this, and that's kind of where I sit with it.
Yes, Councilmember Rao.
and I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I mean, I think the survey was great. And if there's things in that survey that we need to do and act upon as we're putting together our plans for infrastructure, I think we absolutely need to look to that document. I think it's a good document, and I think it highlights some, needs that we have in the infrastructure, like the bathrooms at George Washington, the bathrooms at Caledonia, the bathrooms off of Crespi Pond. There's a lot of opportunity when you look at recreation to look at that survey and fold that into our infrastructure plan. So I don't want to throw that survey out. I think it was a pretty good document.
Thank you, Councilmember McDonald. And then
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with all of the comments so far. And as I was reading this, what I was thinking is rather than spending a lot of staff time, which does equate to money, and I agree that there's probably no way that we could do anything that would be useful in the 20 hours that are requested. So what I was thinking is maybe there would be a format for the rec board to have input from the public. If they got information on where the public sees that maybe we haven't gotten to projects that they think are important, that is still something that I think the rec board could feed to council using the forms. So if they identify by people coming into the meetings in that format, things that we need to be looking at and addressing, I think that might be a better use of time. So then we could be doing things like Caledonia Park, as everyone's mentioned, and I wouldn't want to take staff time away from being able to make measurable progress on something that would actually provide benefit versus a survey, because the analysis time is not to be overlooked, the amount of time and effort that takes, and kind of synthesizing that into something useful. And so I think that I would agree, let's maybe even revisit if that would be useful, see what hasn't been done from the previous survey, and maybe see if the rec board would like to identify specific areas where maybe they feel there were more needs because they had mentioned that maybe there were a few more questions. So if they have particular things in mind, maybe they could synthesize those into recommendations to council on their recommendation form for us to look forward so that we can bring that forward in future goals or future allocations of funding.
all right, I'm not hearing any. I'm going to check now. Would anyone like to make a motion on this?
I just gonna make a comment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment that one thing I did forget about, it was, one of our community goals and work plans matrix says identify and reduce expenditures and increase revenues. Well, I just still believe that this recreational needs assessment still needs to be dusted off, and just what the theme has been. Council Member Rawl read the whole thing. I did not read the whole thing, but I'm okay. So I'm open with what the council wishes to do. I'm going to have to report back to I'm not worried about it. I report back to the commission. They could read the videotape on this, but it sounds to me, see if I'm right, Mayor, is that dust off the current of the past recreation needs and go from there. If there needs to be a couple of questions.
I've heard most of us are leaning towards no action on this.
Okay. I'm fine.
Go ahead, Councilmember Curry.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, which is like right now there's no action that the council needs to take. But I'm just curious. This came off of a recommendation which was done, looks like on 24th April of this year from the Recreation Board, and possibly there may be comments in there that the board had expressed, which I don't know because I haven't heard that. So perhaps staff could at least look at those comments to see if they can do something. Maybe there's a gap there that we don't know of, which is in prompting them to send this over to us. And perhaps that may be the first step to see if there is a gap or not. Thanks.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I had one more comment.
Yes.
We did have a Parks Day. We authorized a Parks Day where they had T-shirts and all. I attended a couple of parks, and Commissioner Chair Jay Tully had a QR code. And in the QR code, it had all the questions which you'd like to see. And there were four or five commissioners all over the parks. I only went to the Washington Park one. So they have some of that information already just from contacts with people. So
But perhaps staff can work with the rec staff can work with them and just probe this issue a little bit. But I don't think we need an formal motion. And I'm going to close the item out. 13B. Thank you very much, Mr. Councilmember Emilio, Mayor Pro Tem. And we're moving on now to item 13C. This is the proposal to draft an ordinance to regulate drones. And I'll recognize Councilmember McDonald for this.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll give a moment for Sandra to bring up the slides, but I'll just go ahead and read it. It's a proposal to draft an ordinance to regulate operations of unmanned aircraft systems, also known as UAS, UAVs or drones, to prevent wildlife disturbances. And this basically comes from the current situation, which is that we have ongoing disturbances of wildlife. We see disturbances to our birds, our harbor seals. We have numerous monitors who are out on the coast, either bay netting, doing data collection for the Black Oyster Catcher monitoring program, for the harbor seal monitoring. And so the volunteers who are out there, as well as we actually get a lot of complaints from residents and from tourists even saying, you know, why are these drones disturbing us? They feel like they can't enjoy. And so part of what we're trying to do is to move forward with this. It's something that we talked about originally back in 2023. And it was actually initially, the proposal originally came up in 2017 where the initial drone ordinance was adopted. But as you can see, there's been a rapid increase of drones, especially in research, and the research is important. It helps us better understand our environment. And you can see we went from one research flight in 2017 to 124 in 2022 per NOAA report. I don't have a more updated report. I'm not sure of the most recent numbers. And we have somebody who comes out every year and does a Sea-Watch counting project for the migratory birds. And her experience in 2022 as well is that she averaged 2 to 3 recreational drones per day. And this was in the winter, not even in the typical summer months when you would expect to see, you know, most of the tourist activity. But it's something that's becoming a bigger problem. And if we can move to the next slide, I'll talk about the current regulations that we have. So right now, drone flights are simply prohibited without a permit. We have found that almost all of the people that we encounter on the coastline using drones do not have a permit, but there's nothing in the permit. So it is unlawful to launch or land an aircraft without a permit, but there's no language indicating that it's unlawful to disturb wildlife, which is the case in multiple federal acts. And I think a lot of the challenges is when people are flying a drone, it's very hard to see what the regulations are in one single place. There's this regulation, that regulation. And so it's hard for them to know, can I fly here? And so it would be great to kind of solidify that in our documents so people know exactly that not only would researchers and commercial operators need to have a permit, but even with the permit, it is actually unlawful to disturb wildlife. And so, so I listed a few of the things here that have regulations. And so if we could move on to the next one, please, Sandra. I'll just mention some of the more federal regulation things that we have. So disturbance is defined as impacting wildlife behavior. So that's important because we see the drones constantly impacting wildlife behavior. And they have also determined in government documents that failure to maintain a minimum altitude of 1,000 feet is presumed to disturb marine mammals or seabirds. And that's important because the drones are often flying much lower than that because they need to, because then they start encroaching on the FAA airspace as well. So it's very important because they have the 5 miles around the airport. Unfortunately, that regulation cuts off just before Point Pinos. So in theory, people shouldn't be flying drones without an FAA permit until they get to Point Pinos. But where are most of the wildlife that's being disturbed? Point Pinos, and really our entire coastline. And there are some local bans that are relevant. So the marine protected areas, we are completely surrounded by marine protected areas here in Pacific Grove. And so there are regulations to protect sensitive and protected wildlife. And we do have our black oyster catchers, which are a species of special concern. And that's why we have the Black Oyster Catcher Monitoring Program that's been going on for about 11 years now. They're very important, a keystone species in our intertidal zone. They are particularly disturbed by drones. And so Pebble Beach also does not permit any drones except for special occasions. Monterey says no person shall operate any model in any park, playground, beach, or public recreation area. And Asilomar State, because it's a state park, drones are prohibited in all Monterey State Park district parks and beaches. And state park rangers can actually issue citations for wildlife harassment if drones are being flown. So we seem to be the one place that does not have a clear description that the recreational drones aren't allowed. And I think that's part of the problem why we're seeing so many problems. And if we could go to the next slide, please, Sandra. So I want to talk a little bit more about the threats to wildlife, because I think what we have found from educating the public when they're flying drones is most people don't understand the threat. So they're just having fun flying a drone. And it's interesting because even somebody that I encountered one time who was a commercial operator hired by a local organization to get some video of the coastline, he had about 100 birds circling his drone going crazy and actually didn't notice, because often what they're doing is they're looking at their camera and they're not noticing that the birds are going crazy, or not understanding that the reason the birds are circling is because the drone is considered a threat to them. So what ends up happening is they've all been laying on the rocks, and now all of a sudden they've flushed from the beach if it's a seal, or from the nest if it's a bird. And this causes a lot of increased stress. So it's really important for wildlife who are kind of living on that edge of having enough energy for survival. So that causes them to have lack of sleep in the case of harbor seals, because they're nocturnal largely. They're sleeping during the day, and these constant disturbances prevent them from getting that sleep and refreshing the oxygen they need to function. And it's also a fight or flight response for them. I know this isn't related to us, but I found it really interesting researching it. They said even California black bears, you may not notice a disturbance, but they had heart monitors on them and their heart rates they skyrocketed in the presence of a drone. So it's definitely, there's a lot of research showing how much disruption and detriment it has to wildlife. And the biggest thing that's most important for us is that that can lead to abandonment and predation. And unfortunately, we have witnessed these things. We have had monitors who've witnessed, I think it was a black oyster catcher pair, losing their chicks because while they were off chasing a drone, something else came in and predated the chicks. So they've invested all this energy and now they've lost. In an effort to protect, they've now lost their offspring. And with the seals as well, we've had disturbances where especially sometimes they're getting disturbed while they're giving birth. If that mother flushes, she could abandon the pup, and then we all have to sit and watch the pup starve to death. And it's really hard for us to explain to tourists and residents why that's happening when it can be so easily prevented. So we're really looking to see what we can do to prevent this, what they call death of 1,000 cuts. When I'm educating people, I liken it to imagine you're sleeping in your bedroom and every few minutes somebody knocks on your window. And so you get startled awake. Am I safe? Do I need to flee? Do I need to call the police? And so it's like that for a lot of the wildlife who are just being constantly disturbed and never have that opportunity to really rest and have their normal life functions, and it can affect their feeding as well. And if we could go to the next one, please, Sandra. So we did originally have a report to council back in February of 2023. At that time, it was a receive the report, but we did have a wildlife subcommittee formed where we worked with Good City, who was working with the former police chief on some wildlife protections and enforcement. Unfortunately, that task was not completed, and I know we don't have funding for that, but one thing that we could easily do that wouldn't involve cost and just a little bit of time would be to finally bring in the ban on the recreational drones and better enforcement for the staff and the commercial drones. And so the request today is for council to give feedback and direction to staff in support of completing the drone portion of that task. And if we could go on to the next one. Yeah, so the goal is really to mitigate the negative impacts on our protected and sensitive wildlife. But one thing to note too is we've gotten a lot of comments from residents and tourists The concern is that their privacy and their safety are impinged upon because you're often getting people flying drones over the top of the rec trail. I've had reports from people of people flying drones in their backyards and looking in their windows. And so these are really the things that we want to give our police department the tools to have an ordinance that allows them to enforce these kinds of things. And so the recommendation is for staff to return to council with an ordinance regulating operations of unmanned aircraft systems or drones. And we already have a great start on this. It's been looked at by Rick Hanks, who's one of the Black Oyster Catcher monitors. And I did talk to Chief Day about it to find out if what we kind of already had in effect and what we'd already started building a structure for, if that was something that the police department could kind of like resume what had paused before. And so he's given some feedback to that, and we could continue with that with council support. So the idea would be to ban recreational drone flights, have permits for research and limited commercial flights, to require wildlife education and wildlife monitors. And one thing to note is that we actually do wildlife monitoring currently for research flights. So we partner with Hopkins Marine Station, for example, when they did the otter research, they actually partnered with the Black Oyster Catcher monitoring team. We would go out and monitor. And in cases where there were severe disturbances, they would then maybe pause. If it was disturbing the nest, for example, they would pause the research or maybe move it a little bit further away. And so we've had a really good partnership with that and would like to continue that. And we want to make sure that we're also doing the same with commercial operators, because unfortunately, most of them aren't really aware of the wildlife disturbances or the important reasons for protecting them. And so we would like to expand enforcement to encourage compliance. And this would really give us the tools to do that and really to protect what people come here for. People come here, it's beautiful, it's quiet, and they really want to be able to enjoy that. And so I'm asking for council support today. And one interesting note, I think this might have been in somebody's letter or maybe something that I found from my prior research, is Pacific Grove is actually the only area between Santa Cruz and San Simeon without restrictions on recreational drone flights. So it'd be really nice to have some consistency with all of the local communities along the beach. And it would just be a lot clearer for operators as well. And then ideally what the former Commander Santos had been doing is he was able to get them to add the local Pacific Grove drone restriction to the, I think it was the Before You Fly app. Well, now, unfortunately, there are a lot more apps. So the more apps that we can get that information on so that they're aware of what the city local ordinances are, that would be another way to make sure people are actually aware, and maybe having the drone, no drone signs more visible right as people enter the city. So our goal really here is just to protect the assets we have and the wildlife that we and the people who visit us all love so much. All right, thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Go ahead and take it out to the public. Can I get a count of any hands going up? We'll see. I'll give it a few seconds here. I only see two.
I only see 2 at the
All
moment.
right, 3,
3.
4. Okay, we're getting higher. So we'll give it 30 seconds to load. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand now, please. Okay, go ahead and take them.
Thank you, Mayor. Lisa Gianni?
Thank you. I'm speaking as both a resident and as a monitor for the Central Coast Black Oyster Catcher Project, with 11 years of experience monitoring black oyster catchers, BLOYS for short, throughout the year along the PG and Monterey shorelines. I was involved with PG's original drone ordinance and the brochures developed for that, and I monitored the BLOYS around Point Pinos during commercial drone flights for the auto auction on the golf course and for many research drone flights between the Coast Guard Pier and Coral Street in PG. I hope you can appreciate how important it is to protect PG's black oyster catchers, harbor seals, otters, and other wildlife from drone disturbance. Research and commercial drone operators can be managed with PGPD permits and educated, and we have worked with many of them successfully. But recreational drone operators have largely proven unresponsive to attempts to manage them with PGPD permits. Recreational drone operators are random, they're all over the place at all hours, and many are resistant to having their fun interfered with. Their drones tend to spend more time in the air, flying closer to wildlife than research drones. A permit for recreational drones is simply not effective or enforceable. I've interacted with many recreational drone operators, but never one with a city permit. Please protect our wildlife and move ahead with an ordinance to prohibit recreational drones and make sure research and commercial drone operators are educated about wildlife disturbance and best practices for avoiding disturbance. The Beloy Project has developed helpful guidelines from our experience monitoring research flights. Monitoring drone flights is still necessary to report on Beloy reactions during the flights. I believe it will also be very helpful to identify permitted research and commercial drone operators with uniform, colorful vests, making it clear if a drone operator has a permit, something really recognizable. Without drone disturbances, residents and visitors will have a much better experience on PG's extraordinary coast, and wildlife species can save their energy to focus on basic survival and raising their young during nesting or pupping season, as well as getting adequate rest on our offshore rocks during their long migration flights. Please move ahead with the drone ordinance and prohibit recreational drones. Thank you.
Kim?
Thank you. I first want to thank Councilwoman McDonald for bringing this forward. And I have witnessed everything that she spoke of as a volunteer, a docent, and a resident. This would be very helpful for a problem we have been dealing with for many years. And I have been monitoring the harbor seals now for 15 years and have watched the drone issue just explode as it grows bigger and bigger. So this is a problem that we can fix, and you guys can do it with this ordinance. So please bring this forward, pass it. And the one recommendation I would make would be, after you pass this ordinance, that you place very visible signs on all the entrances to the city, on the Pacific Grove signs, just as Pebble Beach has done. That way our tourists know as they enter our city, and they're not surprised if they don't happen to see one of our no drone signs. They can easily spot it as they come into any of the entrances of our city. This will keep us in line with Asilomar State Parks and Pebble Beach. And it really makes it helpful for all the cities, because then we're all doing basically the same thing. Thank you guys again for bringing this forward and for protecting our wildlife. Thank you.
Lawrence and Timer?
Thank you. What an excellent report this has been. Every time that has come forward over the years, only this one, its time has come. And I am counting on this council to actually act on it to get it enforced. I know how this city council loves to say, well, what are the other cities doing? Well, we don't have any question about that. We know what the other cities are doing. We're the ones that are left behind and not protecting our wildlife. So it's time to catch up, protect our wildlife. That is big tourist business, much so, more so than recreational drone flyers. So I would encourage you to move forward on this and get it so that it can be enforced. Thank you very much.
Lori Adams?
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Smith and City Council members, my name is Lori Adams. I'd like to speak tonight on behalf of our incredible wildlife who do not have a voice of their own. And I'm a naturalist with the Baynet Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary Group. And as such, I spend countless hours down on the coastal trail here in PG as well as at Hopkins Beach. And I see frequent unpermitted drone usage, flying in extremely close proximity to our hauled out harbor seals, for example. And hauling out behavior is critically important for harbor seals' health and their well-being. They grow their pups, they rest, they replenish their oxygen supplies, and they digest their food while on our nearshore rocks and beaches. And this is very difficult for the seals when they are chronically disturbed by human interference and specifically drone usage, which scares the seals, causes them to flush from their resting state and flee to the sea. So we need clear, concise changes to the current ordinance, and a recreational ban would really be helpful. I would also like to throw my support toward all of Councilwoman McDonald's recommendations. They're all excellent. And I'd like to see this, current drone ordinance change increase public awareness and compliance to help mitigate seal disturbances as well as other wildlife disturbance. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you. Councilwoman McDonald, your presentation was excellent. The facts that you provided and comparisons to what other municipalities are doing is a great example, as your entire report was, of thorough research and representation of the issue. So I want to give a shout out to our local deer. They are just as important, I feel, as all the other wildlife we have in Pacific Grove. I don't know if you are aware of these loud noises, fireworks, gunshots, whatever they are that have been occurring. The last round of them occurred on September 24th, and there was quite a thread going on next door. I think the one prior to September was perhaps in July, but they are frequent. And I don't know if anyone is contacting the police department to try and follow up on this, but people all over Pacific Grove, particularly the beach track, are hearing these noises, and they're very alarming. My concern being the deer. These noises are so loud that it would impact the deer and perhaps make them flee. I don't know. I don't have any scientific data to prove that. However, being that it's occurring in the beach track, and one member had mentioned Lover's Point as well. So there we have the birds, the harbor seals and what have you being impacted as well. So I would ask that perhaps the chief or one of the commanders could look into this to see if they didn't indeed receive any reports regarding these noises. And next time they occur, what is the public to do? Because when we call in, there's always a time period by which police will respond. And, most of the time it's after the fact and too late and no one's there and what have you, as far as people blowing off these fireworks or gunshots or whatever they are. So I would encourage you, back to the drone ordinance, I would encourage you to support what Councilwoman McDonald has provided and suggested. There's no reason not to support it. And again, it would bring greater protection to our wildlife that not only us as residents appreciate, but our tourists as well. So thank you very much.
No further hands are raised, Mayor.
Thank you. We're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. And just to kind of, so we can have a briefer discussion on this, I think what we're looking for is, are we willing as council to continue to move forward with the analysis of this? I don't think we're going to be getting any code going tonight. There's a lot going on here. So it's a huge undertaking from a legal perspective. And from a staff perspective. So there have to be comparisons made with other municipalities. Yes, that's important. And we have to make sure that we're consistent with our neighbors That's important. We don't want to be doing things out in this area because we're all tied together by the sanctuary. So, and the FAA, the federal law really preempts everything that we do in this area. So my thing would be two things. One, are we in favor, each of us in favor of continuing to go down the road on this? And if so, would we want to have, what I would recommend is if we are in favor of that, have staff come back, have our legal staff come back, tell us what it is we can actually accomplish through our ordinance that's not preempted by federal law or otherwise dictated by other laws, so that we can have a legal ordinance. And then, I think it's always going to, in my opinion, it's going to be difficult to enforce for a small town like ours with the staff that we do have and the scientific nature of these things. But those are kind of my, but let's try to stick to the guideline of, are we going to continue to work on this? And because it is within our authority to decide that. And then do we want to have staff kind of come back to us with some options of things we can actually accomplish with our ordinance that may be consistent with neighboring communities? So with that, I'll be quiet and recognize Mayor Pro Tem Amelia.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Member McDonald, for doing this. Caused me to do a little research. First of all, the police department is down 3 people. And we have our CSOs, of course, but they're busy too. And even though we have 2 in the police academy, that's going to take several months to get through the police academy. And then they got to go through training. And then the question is, who monitors the drones? But the other thing was what Mayor mentioned, FAA. I did a little research on it. It talks about drones that are 55 pounds or more or less that could be flown. I'm just naming a couple, which Mr. Perrick would probably check out also. They had so many areas to look at. And of course, they talk about don't interfere with any aircraft. Generally speaking, recreational drones are okay, but they have to follow the FAA regulations, which they name several regulations, and I don't have the knowledge on any of those. Also, they mentioned that it's important they have categories of A, B, C, D, and E on the FAA regulations on drones. And I imagine Mr. Perrick would probably be able to follow that up. And also, that was what I was going to say. They talked about USC section 44309. I'm not an expert on that, on FFA. So I think those have to be fleshed out first, which kind of Mayor spoke about. But my big question is then once this drone, if it happens, the drone thing happens, who's going to monitor that? The PD is busy. The PGPD is busy right now, just trying to maintain person power for the PD. And of course, I'm not sure where the CSOs lands, but I would say that I think this has to be flushed out a little bit more. That's my opinion.
Fair. Councilmember Walking Stick or Rochambeau for it. No, just kidding.
And thank you, Your Honor. What's here? First of all, yeah, I'm in favor of moving this forward and having it explored. And without getting in the weeds, because I know we're not trying to iron everything out tonight. 2 areas of focus that I do really appreciate about this are a ban on wildlife disturbance within the drone code and a ban on recreational drone flights within the drone code. And that's it. I just want to see this move forward and be further explored. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Got your 2 points here. Councilmember Rao.
So I think there's a lot to unpack here. The bottom line is I'm all in. I think that they are a recreational drone is one of the biggest nuisances to the coastline and also to the safety and security of the people that live here. Um, I think we need to clear up the inconsistencies with us and the other surrounding areas. But my question is, so NOAA enforces, but is there, I think it would be important to know, is there technology that can help us do that? Can we use a cell blocker to knock down the signal? Can we use some kind of technology to find out where the operator is located? I think there are some things out there that we can use to help with the enforcement piece. Because if you already see it today, probably I would say enforcement is the biggest complaint that people have, whether it's, whether it's gas blowers or, people shooting off fireworks or whatever the case may be. I find them to be, as I've already said, offensive. I think they're an invasion of privacy. I think it's ironic. I've seen people on Nextdoor asking people for someone to help them find their kid's lost drone. But I do wonder if there's other government agencies that can help us with the enforcement piece. I mean, what is Pebble Beach doing? I mean, they're a private property. They could probably, hire a Marine sniper and take care of it, but we don't have that option, right? So, and I'd like to say to the callers and to the letters that came in, this has probably been the best issue that I've ever seen where people have written in and not only written in support of something, but also given great suggestions about what else we can add. I think one of the callers talked about, when we issue a permit, give them a vest, they got to come back and get their ID back. So they got to give the vest back. And that would identify them so that people don't call in a needless complaint unless they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. I think signs, absolutely, yes, have to be a part of this. And so I think there's a lot there for the staff, both Mr. Perrick and Mr. Mogensen, to come back and help us not only with the language, but also with the enforcement. And so from my perspective, I would make a motion that we direct staff to come back with an ordinance that addresses all of the concerns and issues.
Motion on the floor. Okay, we got a motion and a second discussion on the motion. Motion by Rao, second by McDonald. And do we need a clarification on that?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd ask for some clarification.
Sure.
Because I heard in the motion, the use of the word concerns and, that's kind of a broad term. But I think we can work with it. We've heard comments from the council. Is it my understanding that what you would expect to come back with is the analysis on what you can do under the law with respect to drones in terms of regulating them. And then once you have that report and discuss that, then you would give direction at that point as to what you wanted in your ordinance, rather than bringing an ordinance back to you the next time. So it'd be a two-step process, if you will. The first step is the analysis of what can be done, and then direction at that meeting as to what the council wishes to do. And that would, then we would come back after we hear from you on that with an ordinance consistent with that direction.
Is that your pleasure, or would you like to go straight to? I'm asking her. Councilmember Rao.
I mean, I don't know how much, based on the fact that there are other municipalities around us that all have already attacked that issue, I don't know how much we need to, simmer on it. I think, if we could just look at what other towns are doing, look at the language, make sure that we're within federal law as well as consistent with the other municipalities. I don't know that necessarily we need to pause that. I would also think that something else that should be in that ordinance should be with some kind of a fine or other penalties as well, so that when someone is caught, it is substantial and deterrent.
So so basically what I'm hearing from the motion maker is that she would like to see an ordinance come back, straight back, and then also to address enforcement within that.
And would that be bringing that ordinance back for first reading or bringing it back for discussion?
I would say first reading. and then we can always edit it.
Yeah.
And do you re-second that?
Was saying, I think I can clarify it. So I've actually done, so Councilmember Emilio had asked about similar regulations elsewhere. I actually already compiled using existing ordinances from Monterey, the National Marine Sanctuary, and all of that into a kind of a first draft of the ordinance, because my goal was, let's save money from the council. I'd already been on the subcommittee that sort of looked at this initially. So I've already actually thrown something together that we can use. As I mentioned, we had the member of the Black Oyster Catcher Program who actually also is part of the Bureau of Land Management. So he's familiar with the laws and the regulations and how we're already monitoring research. As far as who would do the monitoring, we already have that in place. The Black Oyster Catcher Monitoring Program is the one who provides the monitoring for the research flights.
Okay, well, I think you're gonna have to provide your input to the staff so they can draft it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, but I think with all that being said, do you second the motion?
I do.
Okay, all right, so now we'll do discussion, and I had Paduri first.
Yeah, I think Councilmember, actually, I don't know the questions, but I was under the same kind of impression that we were going to compare like nearby jurisdictions. So it should give us some indicator of what kind of language we need to have. Enforcement is a big item in my view, and to council members Rao's point, there is technology. The new drone technology is actually, the drones are required to advertise their ID. These are for newer drones, so you can actually track which operator is actually using it, but will require the technology to enforce it, etc. So maybe that can be something that when we considered. And my final point is, I know, like Councilmember McDonald, first of all, thank you for bringing this forward. There was a, you mentioned in passing, at least like towards the end, that signage needs to be in place, but I think that's an important component. I don't just believe that it needs to be at where the city begins and the city ends. It needs to be in like more spots, hopefully, which may act as a deterrent, barring kind of enforcement and all those things that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Perry, you mentioned at first you want to get the information and get it to us and then come back with an ordinance. Was that what you mentioned earlier?
Oh, I suggested that as a possibility, but I've heard a number of council members suggest that instead we come back with the analysis and with a proposed ordinance.
Yeah, I would welcome the analysis of it and the ordinance is
We could do
fine
both.
also.
We
Yeah,
can-
both.
Yep, excuse me.
Two birds with one stone, in other words.
Or one drone.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah, we can do both. So to be clear, the motion is we will bring back the legal analysis as well as a draft of a first for first reading.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, so let's go ahead and take a voice vote on that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Congratulations on that. And I think that brings us to the close of the agenda. Let me take a look just to make sure. All right, yes, this is the end of the agenda, but kind of a somber moment here. I'm going to be adjourning this meeting in honor of Shelton Verdon. He served on the museum board for a short period, but he was a very great guy. I met him. We had coffee, and he really wanted to serve the community. He had moved here only for a short time and was loving living here, having his grandkids come and visit. And and he was just had great energy about him. So he will be missed, and we're going to close this meeting in his honor. And thank you very much, Mr. Verdon, and may you rest in peace. And the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.